Hey guys! Hey, how's it going? How y'all doing? So today, I want y'all to crack your whips and whip out your holy water because we are about to plunge in this review. We are about to plunge the deep dark depths of Dracula's castle in Castlevania. So join me on this review, won't you? So the story. You, the character, are Simon Belmont. You're tasked with venturing the deep dark depths of Dracula's castle to not only slay him, but a massive house of horrors that range from the walking undead to flying bats to a whole gaggle of other horror movie monsters. Now, some of the monsters that you encounter on your way to Dracula may or may not seem familiar. Some of the boss characters you encounter may require a bit more of some classic horror movie knowledge and some classic horror movie understanding in order to know who they are and where they come from. Okay, so the story of this game, not only does it sound like a bit of an adaptation of Bram Stoker's original novel, but also it feels like a tribute and a nod to classic horror movie monsters, as well as classic monsters from horror movies. For example, we have the first boss, who is a nod to a classic horror movie known as the Vampire Bat. We've got Death, who may or may not be a tribute to a horror movie known as The Seventh Seal. We have Medusa'S Boss, which is a nod to the Gorgon from Greek mythology, and a number of Medusas who have popped up in classic movies across the years. But then we come to the final boss, who... Oh wait, sorry, let me back up. I left one out. Also, one of the most classic movie monsters in this House of Horrors, which is Frankenstein's monster. So for those of you who are fans of Mary Shelley, or for those of you who are fans of classic either movie monsters or classic book monsters, there are those for you. And then, of course, there's the Count himself, who appears. He's got this cape that kind of drapes everywhere, but after you fight him in the final boss fight, he changes into a second form, and then you have to fight that as well. Also, I should have issued a spoiler alert at the beginning of this, but you know what? I'm not a conventional video game reviewer. I'm just, giving my interpretation of, this, all the other things that go on throughout this game. But the one thing I can say about the story of the first Castlevania game is that it's not a Bram Stoker's original novel, as well as other not only classic movie monsters of literature, but also movie monsters of cinema as well. And it's all wrapped up in a really fun gothic adventure platforming horror package that I think many of you who are fans of action platformers will definitely get into. And for those of you who are just, curious about this, then I can't recommend enough getting into this just based on the story alone. So the gameplay in this game is really interesting because, kind of like my review of Flashback, this is also an action platformer, but it's not quite as cinematic as Flashback was, but it definitely feels like you're playing through a classic horror movie in this game. It kind of has Van Helsing meets Dracula sort of vibe to it. Anyway, in this game you have a whip that can be upgraded at different points throughout the game, and also the whip itself kind of has a bit of an on-the-nose name, the Vampire Killer, because, hey, you're going through this castle, to kill Dracula and whatnot, so, it kind of speaks for itself, but I'm not here to criticize the name. I'm just here to talk about the game. And you have a number of different sub-weapons throughout the story. You've got throwing daggers, you've got holy water, you've got crosses, which are kind of like boomerang things, and you also have my personal favorite, which is the watch. Now, what's good about the watch is it basically freezes enemies, and if you're in certain levels moving from one area to the next, then you can basically maneuver around them and things like that. However, if you're using the watch on a boss fight, you can actually freeze the boss in place for a number of seconds while you get some lucky hits on them. Now, personally, the watch is my favorite of the sub-weapons that you can use. But, whichever sub-weapon you decide to go with, that's totally up to your discretion and how you want to go about this and everything. There's also some platforming involved in this. Now, when you're playing through this, when you notice some of the platforming, the original Super Mario Brothers may or may not come to mind, because that was the game that came out on the NES many years earlier that kind of showed people that a platforming game could be a lot of fun. And this game, its platforming definitely has nods to that. Only the mushrooms are, replaced with sub weapons, hearts, and stuff like that. So, there are differences between them. Anyway, yeah, you have your whip, you have sub weapons, and you have platforming. Now the platforming is a little bit twitchy, but it's not impossible by any stretch of the imagination. It gives you just enough of a challenge to, keep you on your toes as you venture through Dracula's castle. Okay, now the overall look and feel of the game. I played the original NES game as a part of a Castlevania collection. I did play the NES, the original NES title years ago, but it's been so long that I've almost completely forgotten about it. However, when I started playing this game, this one that came in the collection, and I kind of started to refamiliarize myself with it, a lot of the stuff that I learned from there kind of came back to me, and I started to get into it and just at my pace, venture through it and fight the bosses, get the sub weapons, the hearts, and all that and everything. But the thing that I like the most about this one, that's a part of the collection, is the fact that they improved on some of the things that may have been lacking, like the twitchy controls and the platforming and things like that. Because the platforming in this collection version is a bit smoother. The combat and the enemies are kind of difficult, but it's not unbeatable and it's not unfair. More often than not, if you find yourself getting into a tough encounter or anything like that and something happens, more often than not, it's a misjudgment on your part. And yeah, you just kind of have to go back and rethink your strategy and all that. But all in all, though, this redistribution of the original honestly does a good job of paying homage to where it came from, while at the same time improving on what was there and making better certain things that may have been lacking on. Okay, so overall, my impression of this repackaged version of the original game, it's not too different from how I felt about the original game, but at the same time, it does enough to remedy some of the errors of the original that visiting this repackaging of the old game is honestly a good thing, because for anyone who has never played this series or wants to get into the series, I recommend starting at this version, because the controls, the combat, and the platforming are honestly so much more smoother and better than they were before, that you can honestly go through the game itself and it's not going to punish you or hurt you nearly as much as the original game may have done to us kids back when it came out all those years ago. Although I didn't play it until the 90s, so whatever. But I have nothing but good memories with that one, but I also have good memories with this one. So all in all, if you're even remotely curious about getting into the series and wanting to play its origin and finding out where it came from and how it kind of grew from there, then go with this one, because it's a really solid repackaging of something that already exists, while at the same time paying really good homage to where it came from and how it set a precedent for a massive series of games that would continue forging new paths with each and every single new installment. So there are chases, there's fighting, there are hearts, there are bats, monsters, everything you could possibly want in a game about Dracula. This game has it, and then some in spades. So for those of you that are on the fence about this, go and check out this Castlevania collection and start with the first game and just work your way up from there. Alright, so for those of you that enjoyed this, don't forget to like, don't forget to favorite and subscribe. And if you have anything that you'd like to say about this, please let me know down in the comments below. Alright, I hope you all enjoyed this review of the first Castlevania. Look forward to me doing a review of all the other ones in this collection, and I look forward to seeing you all next time. Bye!